Welcome to this explainer. Now, I know you probably already understand the fundamentals, state assemblies, jural assemblies, and the bedrock of due process. So we're going to jump right in. Today, we're zeroing in on one highly misunderstood office within the assembly court system, the justice. We're going to strip away all those modern misconceptions and look at exactly what this position entails under American common law.
So, what exactly is a justice? Well, first off, they are not a ruler of the court. Instead, think of them as a dedicated shepherd. Actually, the source text deliberately uses that exact word, shepherd. It really sets a tone that's vastly different from the top-down authority you usually see in a conventional courtroom. A justice's primary job is simply to safely guide a case from its opening all the way to its conclusion, protecting the absolute integrity of the process itself.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to define the justice, trace their historical background, contrast their role with the jury, outline their core responsibilities, examine how they fit into the broader system, and finally, summarize it all. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Defining the assembly justice. So, who actually qualifies for this role?
Unlike the statutory judges you might be used to seeing on TV, assembly justices in the common law system do not require a law degree. In fact, it goes further than that. They literally cannot be members of the Bar Association. No way. The fundamental qualification here is just character. They simply must be trusted, highly respected community members who have the temperament to guarantee a totally level playing field for everyone involved.
Section 2. Historical background. Let's look at the foundation of this law.
You see, the public law our justices administered definitely doesn't come from modern corporate boardrooms. It's deeply rooted in history. Our sources trace the law of the land all the way back to ancient Mosaic law, which then evolved through constitutional formation right into the American common law we practice today. Because this foundational law is entirely distinct from statutory codes or corporate regulations, the role of the justice who oversees it has to be fundamentally different as well.
Moving on to Section 3, Justice versus Juror. This is all about the separation of powers.
This right here is the absolute cornerstone of the common law court system. The jury is king. The people sitting on that jury make all the decisions. They aren't just there to rubber stamp an outcome dictated by some judge. No, they are the highest authority in the room, deciding both the facts and the law of the specific case.
It really is a perfect separation of duties when you think about it. The justice manages the playing field, they make sure evidence is admitted fairly, and that due process is strictly protected. The jury, on the other hand, manages the facts and the final outcome. A justice will never, ever override the jury on a verdict.
Section 4. Core responsibilities. Let's look at the specific duties of a justice.
Essentially, a justice must be a master of procedure. Just imagine a really complex trial, right? Tensions are high, legal terms are flying around, it gets confusing. The justice steps in to keep order, clarify any nuances for the jury, and ensure the mechanics of due process never falter. Above all else, their core job is to guarantee that the plaintiff and the defendant both get a completely fair and unbiased hearing.
And that brings us to the culmination of a trial. A justice's absolute final act in a proceeding is called the pronouncement. After the jury has deliberated and reached their decision, it's the justice who formally reads that decision into the official record. This act is so important because it powerfully reinforces that the justice is merely the voice of the jury's verdict, not the author of it. It's the ultimate display of their role as a neutral facilitator.
Section 5. System relationships. Let's talk about court collaboration.
A case doesn't just spontaneously appear before a justice. It's a chronological collaboration. First, the court clerk recognizes the action and assigns the case. Only then does the justice step in to shepherd the proceedings. They then hand the power over to the jury to decide the facts, and finally, the whole process returns back to the justice for that final pronouncement.
Think of the court clerk kind of like a traffic director. They look at the filings, figure out where the case belongs, and direct it to the appropriate jurisdiction and court. The justice, on the other hand, they're the driver of that specific vehicle. Once the clerk assigns the case, the justice takes the wheel and ensures it travels safely and fairly down the road of due process to its final destination with the jury.
Section 6. Summary. Let's wrap this up by looking at accountability.
The sources are incredibly clear when it comes to the ethics and accountability of assembly officers. Those entrusted with the office of justice remain public functionaries. Basically, they are there to get a job done. The text specifically notes that officers in the system do not become God, and they certainly don't rule as emperors over all they survey. They are fundamentally constrained to protect the individual rights of every single member of the group, and they hold absolutely zero special authority outside the strict, defined duties of their office. They answer to the people and to the public law.
When you strip away all the gavel-banging theatrics you see on television, the core truth of this office is pretty profound. As the source material mandates, a justice serves the court by supporting due process, maintaining orderly proceedings, and helping ensure that public justice is administered fairly and transparently. But it really does beg the question. If this entire system relies on the absolute authority of the jury rather than a robed judge, are we, the people, truly ready to take on that level of ultimate responsibility?